I am 26 years old and a woman. On my wedding day, my future mother-in-law, Eleanor, pulled me aside. We were in the little bridal suite at the venue, just moments before I was supposed to walk down the aisle. The air was thick with the scent of lilies and hairspray. My dress felt like a beautiful, heavy cage. Eleanor took both of my hands in hers. Her grip was surprisingly strong, her knuckles bony and cool against my skin. She looked directly into my eyes, and her own eyes, a pale, watery blue, held a strange mix of pity and malice. She smiled, but it was a thin, tight smile that did not reach her eyes. It was the kind of smile you give someone right before you deliver bad news. "Clara, dear," she said, her voice a low, conspiratorial whisper. It was the voice she always used when she was about to say something she thought was profoundly wise, but was actually just incredibly cutting. "I need to tell you something. It is my duty as his mother." I waited. My heart started to beat a little faster. I thought she was going to give me some last-minute advice, a family secret, or perhaps a sentimental piece of jewelry. I was wrong. "Leo is a perfect son," she continued, her thumb tracing a circle on the back of my hand. "He is loyal. He is generous. He does everything I have ever asked of him. He will always be a perfect son." She paused for effect. I could hear the distant murmur of guests finding their seats, the faint sound of a string quartet warming up. The world was moving on, preparing for the happiest moment of my life, while I was frozen in this small, tense bubble with his mother. "But he is a terrible husband," she finished. The words landed like stones in the pit of my stomach. A terrible husband. Not "he will be" or "he might be." He is. It was a statement of fact, delivered with absolute certainty. I felt a cold dread wash over me. I tried to pull my hands away, but her grip tightened. She was not finished. She leaned closer, her perfume cloying and sweet. "He will disappoint you," she whispered. "He will always put me first. Remember that. You will never be the most important woman in his life. I just wanted you to know what you were getting into, with your eyes wide open." Then she let go of my hands, patted my cheek as if I were a child, and straightened up. Her smile was back, wider this time, almost triumphant. "Now, do not be late," she said brightly. "It is your big day, after all." She turned and left the room, leaving me standing there, my mind reeling. The words echoed in my head. A terrible husband. A perfect son. The two statements felt like a contradiction, a puzzle I could not solve. Was this a warning? A threat? A cruel joke? I did not have time to process it. My sister Chloe came into the room, her bridesmaid dress a swirl of soft green fabric. "It is time," she said, her own smile wide and genuine. Or so I thought at the time. As I walked towards the door, my father waiting on the other side, I glanced back into the hallway. I saw Eleanor talking to Chloe. It was just for a second. But in that second, I saw it happen. I saw it with perfect clarity. Eleanor's hand moved quickly, discreetly. She slipped a small, folded piece of paper into Chloe's hand. Chloe's fingers closed around it instantly, and she slid it into a hidden pocket in her dress. Their eyes met for a fraction of a second. It was a look of shared understanding, of a secret passed and received. Then they both turned and smiled at me, their faces bright and encouraging, as if nothing had happened at all. But something had happened. A warning had been given. A secret had been passed. And I was walking down the aisle towards a man I was no longer sure I knew, with a terrible, cold knot of suspicion tightening in my chest. The ceremony was a blur. I remember saying the words. I remember Leo slipping the ring on my finger. His hands were warm and steady. He looked at me with such love in his eyes that for a moment I almost convinced myself I had imagined the whole thing. I told myself Eleanor was just being dramatic. A bitter woman afraid of losing her son. I told myself the note was nothing. A shopping list, a reminder for later, Anything but what my gut told me it was. My gut told me it was a weapon, and it was aimed at me. Leo and I had our first dance. He held me close and whispered how happy he was, how he could not wait to spend the rest of his life with me. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to sink into his arms and forget his mother's words, forget the image of that secret note. But I could not. Over his shoulder, I could see Eleanor watching us. She was smiling that same thin, knowing smile. Next to her stood Chloe, who caught my eye and gave me a little wave. Her hand, the one that had taken the note, was resting on her hip. The gesture seemed casual, but to me it felt like she was guarding something. The reception carried on around me. People laughed and ate and made toasts. My parents were beaming with pride. Leo's father, a quiet man who rarely contradicted his wife, seemed genuinely happy for us. Everything looked perfect on the surface. But underneath, I felt a current of unease. I kept replaying the scene in my head. Eleanor's words. The note. The look between her and my sister. It was a conspiracy I did not understand, happening on a day that was supposed to be about love and trust. I needed to talk to Chloe. I needed to know what was in that note. I found her near the cake, talking to one of our cousins. I waited until the cousin walked away, and then I approached her. "Can I talk to you for a second?" I asked, trying to keep my voice light. "Of course," Chloe said, linking her arm through mine. "Is everything okay? You look a little pale." We walked over to a quiet corner of the room near a window that overlooked the gardens. The sun was starting to set, casting long shadows across the lawn. "I am fine," I said. I saw something earlier, before the ceremony." Chloe's expression did not change. She just looked at me with wide, innocent eyes. "What did you see?" she asked. "I saw Eleanor give you something," I said, my voice dropping to a whisper. "She passed you a note." Chloe blinked. She let out a small, nervous laugh. "A note? Clara, what are you talking about? She did not give me anything." "Yes, she did," I insisted. "I saw it, Chloe. She slipped it into your hand right before I came out of the bridal suite." Her denial was too quick, too smooth. It made me more certain. I was not wrong. I had to know what was happening. This feeling was a poison, and it was spreading fast. "You must have been seeing things," she said, patting my arm. "You have been so stressed with all the wedding planning. Your mind is probably playing tricks on you." "My mind is not playing tricks on me," I said, my voice hardening. "I know what I saw. What was in the note, Chloe?" She pulled her arm away from mine. Her smile faded, replaced by a look of annoyance. "There was no note, Clara. I do not know why you are making this up. It is your wedding day. You should be happy, not inventing strange stories about my new mother-in-law." "She is not your mother-in-law. She is mine," I snapped. The words came out sharper than I intended. "Well, she is Leo's mother, and we are all family now," Chloe said, her tone defensive. "And she is a lovely woman. I cannot believe you are accusing her of what? Passing secret notes? It is ridiculous." This was wrong. This was so wrong. My sister was lying to my face. She was siding with a woman she barely knew over me. The knot in my stomach tightened until it hurt. "Just tell me the truth," I pleaded. "Please, Chloe, this is really bothering me." "The truth is that you are being paranoid," she said, her voice cold. "Now, if you will excuse me, I am going to go get some cake. You should try to enjoy your own wedding." She turned and walked away, leaving me standing by the window. I watched her go, a sick feeling rising in my throat. She was lying. I knew she was. And that meant that whatever was in that note, it was something she did not want me to know about. It was a secret she was keeping with my husband's mother. A secret against me. The joy of the day had completely evaporated, replaced by a chilling sense of betrayal. My own sister was part of this. That thought was more painful than anything Eleanor had said. Later that evening, I tried to talk to Leo about it. We were in our hotel room, the reception finally over. My beautiful dress was draped over a chair, and I had changed into something more comfortable. Leo was in a fantastic mood, humming to himself as he unpacked a small overnight bag. "What an incredible day," he said, turning to me with a huge smile. "Was not it perfect?" "Leo, we need to talk," I said, my voice serious. His smile faltered. "What is it? Are you okay?" I took a deep breath. "Your mother said something to me today." Before the ceremony. He sat down on the bed next to me, his expression concerned. "What did she say? Was she being difficult?" "You know how she can be." "She told me that you are a perfect son, but a terrible husband," I said, watching his face for a reaction. He sighed and ran a hand through his hair. "Oh, Mom," he muttered. "I am so sorry, Clara. She gets these ideas in her head. She is just protective. She did not mean it." "It felt like she meant it," I said. "And that is not all. I saw her give a note to my sister." Leo frowned. "A note? What kind of note?" "I do not know," I said. "That is the problem. I asked Chloe about it, and she lied to me. She said it never happened." Leo stood up and started pacing the room. "A note to Chloe? Why would my mom give your sister a note?" "That does not make any sense." "I know it does not," I said, my frustration growing. "That is why I am worried. It felt secret, clandestine. And Chloe's denial was so strange. She was so defensive." He stopped pacing and looked at me. "Clara, honey, it was our wedding day. Emotions were high. Everyone was stressed. Are you sure you saw what you think you saw?" There it was again. The same dismissal. The same suggestion that I was overwrought, that my own eyes and instincts could not be trusted. First from my sister, and now from my new husband. It was infuriating. "I am sure," I said firmly. "Leo, I am not crazy. I saw it." Okay, I believe you," he said, though his tone suggested he was just trying to placate me. But even if she did, it was probably nothing. Maybe it was a recipe she promised to give her. Or the phone number of a cousin Chloe wanted to get in touch with. It could be a million innocent things. "Then why would Chloe lie about it?" I pressed. "I do not know," he said with a shrug. "Maybe she was just flustered. Maybe she thought you were accusing her of something and got defensive. Chloe can be a bit dramatic sometimes. You know that." He was making excuses for her. He was making excuses for his mother. He was treating my very real fear as a silly, emotional overreaction. Eleanor's words came back to me. "He will always put me first." Was this it? Was this the beginning of him choosing his mother's comfort over my peace of mind? "I want you to talk to your mother," I said. "I want you to ask her what the note said." Leo looked uncomfortable. "Clara, can we not do this tonight? It is our wedding night. Let us not start our marriage with an interrogation of my mother over a mysterious note that was probably nothing." "It is not nothing to me," I said, my voice quiet but firm. "This is important. I feel like something is wrong, and I need to know what it is. I need to know that you are on my side." He sighed again, a long, weary sound. "Of course I am on your side. You are my wife. But you are asking me to start a fight with my mom on our wedding night based on a suspicion. Can you not just let it go? For me? For us? We can talk about it tomorrow or next week. Let us just enjoy tonight." He came over and put his arms around me. He kissed my forehead. His embrace felt warm, but it did not comfort me. It felt like a cage, a way to silence me, to get me to drop the subject. I felt a profound sense of loneliness. I was married for less than 12 hours, and I was already in a fight that no one else seemed to think was real. I was the only one who saw the threat. I pulled away from him. "Fine," I said. "We will drop it. For tonight." But I knew I would not drop it. I could not. They thought I was being paranoid. They thought I was hysterical. They wanted me to believe I was imagining things. But I knew what I saw, and I knew that I had to find out what was in that note. My marriage, my future, my sanity. It all felt like it depended on it. The battle lines had been drawn in secret, and I had to figure out the game before I lost. The next morning, the problem did not disappear. It sat between Leo and me at breakfast like a third person. He was cheerful, talking about our honeymoon plans, acting as if our conversation last night had never happened. I picked at my food, my mind racing. How could I find out what was in the note? Chloe was clearly not going to tell me. Leo was clearly not going to help me. I was on my own. We were supposed to leave for our honeymoon in 2 days, a week in a tropical paradise. It was supposed to be the most romantic trip of our lives. Now, the thought of it filled me with dread. How could I relax on a beach with Leo, pretending everything was fine, when this dark cloud of suspicion was hanging over us? I felt like I was living in a different reality from him. In his world, we were happy newlyweds. In my world, we were the targets of a conspiracy orchestrated by his mother and my sister. When we got back to our apartment, I told Leo I was going to go see my parents. It was a lie. I was going to go see Chloe. I needed to try one more time. Maybe if I caught her off guard without Leo or Eleanor around to back her up, she would crack. I drove to her apartment, my hands gripping the steering wheel. I rehearsed what I would say. I would be calm. I would be rational. I would not accuse her. I would just ask again, sister to sister. She was surprised to see me. When she opened the door, she was still in her pajamas, her hair a mess. "Clara," she said, her eyes wide. "What are you doing here? I thought you and Leo would be, you know?" She wiggled her eyebrows suggestively. "I need to talk to you," I said, walking past her into the apartment. Her friendly demeanor vanished. She closed the door and leaned against it, crossing her arms. "If this is about the note again, I am not interested." "It is about the note," I said, turning to face her. "Chloe, I am not going to let this go. You are my sister. Why are you lying to me?" "I am not lying," she said, her voice flat. "I am tired of you asking." "I saw it," I said, my voice rising despite my best efforts to stay calm. "I saw her give it to you. Were you two just going to stand there and lie to my face forever? Did you think I was that stupid?" "I think you are being crazy," she shot back. "You are obsessed with this. It is creepy. Eleanor is a nice lady, and you are treating her like some kind of villain." "She told me my husband is a terrible husband on my wedding day," I said. "Does that sound like a nice lady to you?" Chloe's expression flickered. For a split second, I saw something in her eyes. It looked like guilt. But it was gone as quickly as it appeared. "She was probably just joking," she said, but her voice lacked conviction. "She has a dry sense of humor. You are taking everything way too seriously." "And you are not taking it seriously enough," I said. "This is my life, Chloe. My marriage. If there is something I need to know, you have to tell me." I stepped closer to her. "Please," I said, my voice softening. "Whatever it is, we can deal with it together. But you cannot keep this from me. It is not fair." She looked away, unable to meet my eyes. "There is nothing to tell," she mumbled. I knew then, with absolute certainty, that she was lying. And she was a bad liar. She could not even look at me while she did it. The guilt was there, buried under a layer of defensiveness. Something was deeply wrong. "Where is it?" I asked. "The note. Do you still have it?" Her eyes darted towards her purse, which was sitting on the kitchen counter. It was an involuntary movement, a reflex, but I saw it. I walked over to the counter. "Let me see your purse," I said. "No," she said, her voice sharp. She moved to block me, but I was faster. I grabbed the purse and opened it. "Clara, give that back," she yelled, lunging for it. I dumped the contents onto the counter. A wallet, keys, lipstick, a tangle of receipts. But no note. My heart sank. Maybe she had thrown it away. "Are you happy now?" she screamed. "You have gone through my stuff. You have officially lost your mind." I ignored her, my eyes scanning the pile of papers. Most of them were from coffee shops and clothing stores. But then I saw it. Not a note, but something else. A receipt from a pharmacy. It was dated from the day before the wedding, and on it there was one item listed, a prescription. It was not for Chloe. The name on the prescription was Leo's. I picked it up. My hands were trembling. It was for a medication I had never heard of. I looked at Chloe. Her face was pale. She looked terrified. "What is this?" I asked, holding up the receipt. "Why were you picking up a prescription for Leo?" She snatched it out of my hand. "It is nothing," she said, her voice shaky. "It is private. It is none of your business." "Leo is my husband," I said. "His health is my business. What is this medication for? Is he sick? Why did he not tell me?" "He is not sick," she said quickly. "Just drop it, Clara, please. You are getting into things you do not understand." "Then make me understand," I said. "What is going on?" "First the note from Eleanor, now a secret prescription for Leo. What are you all hiding from me?" She started stuffing her things back into her purse, her movements frantic. "I have to go," she said. "I am late for work." "You do not work on Sundays," I said. She froze. I had caught her in another lie. She looked trapped. "I have to go," she repeated, her voice cracking. She pushed past me and ran out of the apartment, slamming the door behind her. I stood alone in her messy living room, my mind spinning. A secret prescription. A lie about work. This was so much bigger than a note. This was a web of secrets and lies. And my husband and my sister were at the center of it, with Eleanor pulling the strings. I took out my phone and typed the name of the medication from the receipt into a search engine. My blood ran cold as I read the results. The medication was a powerful anti-anxiety drug. It was also sometimes used to treat more serious psychological conditions. It could have severe side effects, including memory loss and confusion, especially when mixed with alcohol. And we had all been drinking at the wedding. Leo had been drinking a lot. I thought back to the reception. Leo had seemed so happy, so carefree. But now I wondered if it was real. Was his happiness fueled by medication? Was his mother managing his mental health in secret without telling me? His wife? And why was Chloe involved? Why was she the one picking up his pills? I felt sick. I had married a man I did not know at all. His mother had not been warning me. She had been gloating. She was in control. She managed his moods, his health, his life. He was a perfect son because he was completely dependent on her. And I, his wife, was just an outsider who had to be managed too. The note was part of that. It was an instruction to Chloe, her new ally, on how to help manage me. I left Chloe's apartment and drove. I did not have a destination. I just drove, trying to clear my head. The city streets blurred past my window. I felt a rising tide of anger. Anger at Eleanor for her manipulation. Anger at Chloe for her betrayal. And a deep, confusing anger at Leo. Was he a victim in this, or a willing participant? Did he know what his mother was doing? Did he want me to be kept in the dark? I had to get to the bottom of it. But I could not do it by confronting them directly. They would just lie more, gaslight me more, and close ranks against me. I needed proof. I needed leverage. I needed to understand the entire scope of their deception before I made my next move. My first step was to find the note. Chloe had been spooked when I mentioned it. She had probably destroyed it by now. But maybe not. Maybe she was arrogant enough to think I would never find it. I had to get back into her apartment. I had a key. She had given it to me years ago for emergencies. This felt like an emergency. I waited until I knew she would be out for the evening. I had called her earlier, using a blocked number, just to see if she would answer. She had, and I could hear the sound of a busy restaurant in the background. I drove back to her building, my heart pounding with a mixture of fear and determination. This felt wrong, sneaking into my own sister's home. But what she was doing to me was so much worse. I let myself into her apartment. It was quiet and dark. I did not turn on the lights. I used the flashlight on my phone. The beam cut a nervous path through the darkness. Where would she hide something important? I started with the obvious places: her desk drawers, her bedside table, under her mattress. Nothing. I thought back to the wedding. She had slipped the note into a pocket in her dress. I went to her closet. The green bridesmaid dress was hanging there, zipped up in a garment bag. I unzipped it carefully. I ran my hands over the fabric, searching for the hidden pocket. I found it, tucked into a seam on the side. My fingers brushed against a small piece of paper. My breath caught in my throat. It was there. She had forgotten about it, or she had not thought I would ever look there. I pulled it out. It was a small, square piece of high-quality stationery, the kind Eleanor always used. It was folded in half. My hand was shaking so much I could barely open it. The note was not long. It was handwritten in Eleanor's elegant, spiky script, and it was devastating. It read, "Chloe, my dear, the honeymoon is the most vulnerable time. Make sure he takes his evening dose, no matter what. Remind him of his anxieties. Tell him Clara is too impulsive, too emotional for him. Suggest that he needs someone more stable, more like you. Plant the seed of doubt. He listens to you. You can make him see that he made a mistake. We will fix this. Your loving friend, E." I had to read it 3 times before the words sank in. Plant the seed of doubt. He made a mistake. We will fix this. It was a battle plan. A set of instructions for my own sister on how to sabotage my marriage from the very beginning. She was not just a passive participant. She was an active soldier in Eleanor's war against me. And the part about the medication, make sure he takes his evening dose, no matter what. So they were drugging him to make him more suggestible, more pliable. They were using his mental health as a weapon against him and against me. This was so much more sick and twisted than I could have ever imagined. I took a picture of the note with my phone. Then I carefully folded it and put it back in the pocket of the dress. I zipped up the garment bag. I left everything exactly as I had found it. They could not know that I knew. Not yet. I had the proof now. I had the beginning of a plan. They had underestimated me. They thought I was just an emotional, impulsive girl who could be easily manipulated. They were about to find out how wrong they were. I went home. Leo was on the couch, watching a movie. He smiled when I came in. "Hey, you were gone a long time. Is everything okay with your parents?" "Everything is fine," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. I looked at him, really looked at him. The man I had married. Was he a victim? A puppet? Or was he a co-conspirator? I did not know, but I was going to find out. "I am going to take a shower," I said. I needed to wash the feeling of betrayal off my skin. I needed to think. In the shower, with the hot water beating down on me, I made a decision. I was not going to run. I was not going to cry. I was going to fight. Eleanor and Chloe wanted to break up my marriage. They wanted to fix Leo's mistake. Well, I was going to fix this. I was going to expose them. I was going to burn their whole sick little conspiracy to the ground. And I was going to do it in a way they would never see coming. The honeymoon was still on, but it was not going to be the romantic getaway Leo was expecting. It was going to be an intelligence-gathering mission, and I was going to find out just how deep this rot went. The next 2 days before the honeymoon were a strange performance. I acted like the perfect happy bride. I smiled, I laughed, I talked excitedly about our trip. Leo seemed relieved. He thought I had gotten over my paranoid episode. He had no idea what was brewing beneath the surface. I was a volcano. and I was just waiting for the right moment to erupt. Inside, I was a coiled spring of fury and focus. I spent every spare moment planning. I reread the note 100 times. Remind him of his anxieties. Tell him Clara is too impulsive. Suggest that he needs someone more stable, more like you. It was a script, a psychological warfare manual, and Chloe was meant to be the one delivering the lines. But the note also implied that Chloe would be in contact with Leo during our honeymoon. How? Phone calls? Texts? I needed to be ready to intercept them. I also did more research on Leo's medication. I learned that it was a benzodiazepine, highly effective for acute anxiety, but also with a high potential for dependency. Long-term use could lead to cognitive impairment, and it should never, ever be managed by anyone other than a doctor and the patient. What Eleanor was doing was not just manipulative, it was medically dangerous. She was treating her son like a pet, not a person. The night before we left, Leo was packing his suitcase. I watched him from the doorway of our bedroom. He was humming that same cheerful tune from our wedding night. He seemed so light, so unburdened. It was a stark contrast to the storm raging inside me. I saw him take out a small, unlabeled pill bottle from his DOP kit. He opened it, shook out a single white pill, and put it on the nightstand with a glass of water. His evening dose. Just as the note had instructed. I felt a surge of pity for him, mixed with my anger. He was a grown man, but he was being treated like a child. His life managed by a secret cabal of the women who were supposed to care about him most. Did he have any idea of the extent of it? Or had he been living in this fog for so long that he did not know anything else? "What is that?" I asked, my voice casual. He glanced over at me, then at the pill. "Oh, just a vitamin," he said, a little too quickly. Another lie. A small one, but it fit the pattern. He was in on it. He was helping them keep the secret from me. The pity I felt began to evaporate, replaced by a harder, colder resolve. He was not just a victim. He was complicit. "You should take it now," I said, walking into the room. "So you do not forget." He looked surprised by my helpfulness. "Good idea," he said. He picked up the pill and swallowed it with a gulp of water. I watched him. I felt nothing. My heart was a block of ice. I was no longer his wife, not in any real sense. I was an undercover agent in my own marriage, and my mission was to uncover the truth, no matter how ugly it was. We flew to the resort the next day. It was beautiful. White sand beaches, turquoise water, palm trees swaying in the breeze. It was a postcard of paradise. But for me, it felt like a prison. A beautiful, luxurious prison where I was trapped with my target. Leo was in heaven. He loved the sun, the water, the food. He was constantly trying to pull me into his happy bubble. "Isn't this amazing, Clara?" he would say, squeezing my hand. "Are you not having the best time?" I would smile and nod. "It is perfect," I would say. But my mind was elsewhere. I was watching him, listening to him, waiting. The first couple of days, nothing happened. Leo seemed fine. He did not seem overly anxious. He took his pill every night without comment. He did not mention his mother or my sister. I started to wonder if I had overreacted. Maybe the note was just a one-time thing. Maybe they had decided to back off. But then, on the third day, it started. We were having lunch at a beachfront restaurant. Leo was telling a long, rambling story about a college prank. He was laughing, enjoying himself. Then his phone buzzed. He picked it up. His smile vanished. "Who is it?" I asked. "Just my mom," he said, his eyes glued to the screen. "Checking in." He started typing a reply. His thumbs moved quickly over the screen. He was frowning, a little line of worry appearing between his eyebrows. He was so absorbed in his phone that he did not notice me watching him. "Is everything okay?" I asked after a minute had passed. He put his phone down, but he did not look at me. "Yeah, fine," he said. "She is just, you know, being a mom." But his mood had shifted completely. The cheerful, carefree man from a moment ago was gone. In his place was a tense, anxious stranger. He was quiet for the rest of the meal. He pushed his food around his plate. He seemed distant, lost in his own thoughts. Later that afternoon, we were walking on the beach. He was still quiet. "Leo, what is wrong?" I finally asked. "You have been acting strange ever since your mom texted." He stopped walking and looked out at the ocean. "It is nothing," he said. "I am just thinking." "About what?" I pressed. He sighed. "It is just, my mom is worried about the business. There is a big deal we are trying to close, and she thinks I am not focused enough on it while I am here." Leo worked for his family's successful real estate company. Eleanor was the CEO. She had always held it over his head. "You're on your honeymoon," I said. "You are not supposed to be focused on work. She should know that." "I know," he said. "But she is right. Maybe it was a bad time to take a week off. It was impulsive." Impulsive. The word from the note. My blood ran cold. It was happening. Eleanor was activating the plan. She was feeding him his anxieties, just like the note said. "It was not impulsive," I said, trying to keep my voice even. "We planned this trip for months. You deserve a break. The business will be fine for 1 week." He shook his head. "You do not understand. This deal is huge. If it falls through, I do not know what I would do. I would be letting everyone down. I would be letting her down." He was spiraling. I could see the anxiety taking hold of him, twisting his features. This was what Eleanor wanted. This was the seed of doubt, planted from thousands of miles away. "You are not letting anyone down," I said firmly. I put my hands on his shoulders and made him look at me. "Listen to me. You are a smart, capable man. You have done everything you can to prepare for this deal. It will not fall through because you took a few days off for your honeymoon. Your mother is just being a worrier. Do not let her get into your head." He looked at me, and for a moment I thought I was getting through to him. His expression softened. "You are right," he said. "I know you are right." But then his phone buzzed again. He pulled it out of his pocket. It was a text from Chloe. I saw her name on the screen before he could angle it away from me. He read the text. His face clouded over again. The brief moment of clarity was gone. "What did she say?" I asked. "Nothing," he said, shoving the phone back in his pocket. "She was just asking how the trip is going." Another lie. It was so blatant, so clumsy. He was a terrible liar, just like his sister. "Leo, what is going on?" I said, my patience wearing thin. "First your mom, now my sister. What are they saying to you? Why are you hiding it from me?" "I am not hiding anything," he said, his voice rising. "Why are you interrogating me? I am just trying to have a nice walk on the beach with my wife, and you are turning it into an inquisition." He was deflecting, turning it around on me, making me the bad guy. It was a classic manipulation tactic, and it was probably one Eleanor had taught him well. "I am not interrogating you," I said, my voice dangerously calm. "I am asking you a question that my husband should be able to answer honestly. What did Chloe say in that text?" He stared at me, his jaw tight. "She said she agrees with my mom. That I seem stressed and that maybe you are putting too much pressure on me to be on all the time during this trip." The words hit me like a slap in the face. It was the script from the note, almost word for word. Clara is too emotional, too impulsive. He needs someone more stable. They were working together, a pincer movement of psychological manipulation. Eleanor would stir up his anxiety about work, and then Chloe would come in and blame it on me. It was brilliant. It was evil. I took a step back from him. I felt a sudden, chilling clarity. He was not just a victim. He was a willing participant. He was letting them do this. He was choosing their narrative over our reality. "So you think I am the problem?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. He had the grace to look ashamed. He would not meet my eyes. "No, of course not," he mumbled. "It is just, they know me really well. They can tell when I am getting overwhelmed." "And I cannot?" I asked. "I am your wife. Do you think I do not know you? Do you think I do not see what is happening right now?" He looked up and his eyes were filled with a desperate, pleading confusion. "What is happening?" he asked. "I do not even know. My head is all messed up." "Your head is messed up because your mother and my sister are deliberately messing with it," I said, my voice shaking with rage. "And you are letting them." "That is not true," he said, but his denial was weak. He knew, on some level, that I was right. But he was too deep in their web to admit it. "Is it?" I challenged. "Leo, look at me. They are poisoning you against me. Can you not see it?" He just stood there, silent and conflicted. He was a puppet, and his strings were being pulled from two different directions. His mother held one set. His sister held the other. And I was just the audience, watching the pathetic show. I turned and walked away from him, back towards the hotel. I did not know what else to do. I could not fight a two-front war. Not when my own husband was a conscientious objector on the side of the enemy. I needed a new plan. Confronting him was not working. He was too brainwashed, too dependent on their approval. I needed more than just the note. I needed irrefutable proof of their coordination. I needed to see their messages. I needed to know exactly what they were saying, what they were planning. That night, Leo took his pill as usual. He fell asleep quickly, a deep, medicated sleep. I waited until I was sure he was out. Then I carefully slipped his phone from the nightstand. My heart was pounding in my chest. This felt like a huge violation of his privacy. But he had already violated my trust in a much deeper way. I unlocked his phone. He had told me his passcode months ago, in case of an emergency. I guess this qualified. I opened his messages. My hands were trembling. I went to the thread with his mother. It was exactly as I had feared. Her messages were a masterclass in manipulation. "Are you remembering to take your medication, sweetie? I worry about you. Clara seems like a lot of fun, but she does not have a practical bone in her body. Make sure you are the one handling the finances. That deal is so important, Leo. I hope you are not letting yourself get too distracted. Your future depends on it." It went on and on, a constant stream of undermining comments, veiled criticisms of me, and reminders of his own inadequacies. She was reinforcing his dependence on her, making him feel like he could not function without her guidance. Then I opened the thread with Chloe. It was even worse. It was a direct collaboration. Chloe: "Mom E says to bring up the deal again. Did you?" Leo: "Yes, he is starting to worry." Wait, that was not Leo. The text was from Chloe to someone else. I scrolled up. The contact name was Eleanor. I was not in Leo's phone anymore. I was in a group chat. The participants were Eleanor and Chloe. My stomach lurched. I must have misclicked. I went back to Leo's home screen. The messaging app was still open. I was in his texts. I scrolled down his list of conversations. There it was, a group chat named Project Lighthouse. The participants were Leo, Eleanor, and Chloe. My blood turned to ice. It was not just them talking about him. He was in on it. He was part of the conversation. He was an active participant in his own manipulation. Project Lighthouse. What did that even mean? Were they trying to guide him to safety? The arrogance was breathtaking. I opened the group chat. I started scrolling back through weeks and months of messages. What I found made me feel physically ill. It was a detailed, coordinated plan to manage every aspect of his life, and by extension, mine. They discussed what he should wear to certain events. They strategized about how he should handle disagreements with me. They analyzed my behavior, my moods, my friendships. I was a specimen under a microscope. Eleanor. Clara seemed upset about the caterer. Leo, you need to be firm. Tell her it is already decided. She is too emotional about these things. Chloe, I agree. She gets worked up over nothing. You need to be the calm one, Leo. The rock. Leo. Okay. I will talk to her. You're right. It is better if I just handle it. They were scripting his interactions with me. They were telling him how to think, how to feel. They were creating a version of me in his head. The impulsive, emotional, impractical wife. And then coaching him on how to manage me. The name Project Lighthouse started to make a horrible kind of sense. They saw me as a storm, a dangerous coastline, and they were the lighthouse, guiding their precious boy Leo safely through the treacherous waters of his marriage to me. I kept scrolling. The messages from the last few days were the worst. Eleanor. He is on the honeymoon. It is time for phase 2. Chloe, are you ready? Chloe. Ready. I will start texting him tomorrow afternoon. I will talk about how stable and calm he needs to be for you and for the business. Eleanor. Good. Leo, when she texts you, you need to act conflicted. Tell Clara that Chloe is worried about you. Make it seem like her concern is genuine. Leo. I understand. I will make sure Clara sees that everyone is just worried about my well-being. My hands were shaking so hard I almost dropped the phone. It was all a script, a performance. His anxiety on the beach, his conflicted expression, his clumsy lies. It was all an act. A deliberate, calculated strategy to make me feel like I was the problem, to isolate me, to make me doubt myself. He was not a puppet. He was one of the puppeteers. I felt a wave of nausea. The man lying next to me, sleeping peacefully, was a monster. A weak, pathetic monster who had conspired with his mother and my sister to psychologically torture his own wife. I kept reading, a morbid fascination compelling me forward. I had to know how deep it went. I scrolled back months to before we were even engaged. The conspiracy had been going on for a long time. They had been planning this since the very beginning of our relationship. Chloe. She really likes him. I think this is getting serious. Eleanor. We need to be careful. She is not the right fit for him. Too independent. She will not be manageable. Chloe. What do we do? Eleanor. For now, we play along. We will be supportive. We will get to know her. We will find her weaknesses, and when the time is right, we will use them. My weakness. They had identified it perfectly. My love for him. My trust in my sister. They had used the best parts of me as weapons against me. I felt a profound, bottomless sense of betrayal. It was not just a plot to break up my marriage. It was a plot to break me. To dismantle my confidence, to warp my sense of reality, to turn me into a paranoid, insecure shell of a person who would be easier to control or easier to discard. I put the phone back on the nightstand. I slid out of bed. I went into the bathroom and locked the door. I looked at myself in the mirror. My face was pale. My eyes wide with shock and horror. Who was the woman looking back at me? She was a fool. A naive, trusting fool who had walked straight into a trap. But as I stood there, the shock began to subside, and something else took its place. A cold, hard rage. A fury so pure and so intense it felt like it could burn down the entire world. They thought I was weak. They thought I was emotional. They thought I was manageable. I was about to show them who I really was. Project Lighthouse was about to run into a hurricane. And her name was Clara. I did not sleep that night. I sat in a chair by the window, watching the moon move across the sky. And I planned. My mind was clearer than it had been in months. The confusion, the self-doubt, the anxiety, it was all gone. All that was left was a singular, burning purpose. I was going to destroy them, not just expose them. Destroy them. I was going to take away everything they valued. Eleanor's control, Chloe's undeserved sense of superiority, and Leo's comfortable, consequence-free life. My first move was to gather more evidence. The text messages were damning. I had taken photos of the most incriminating ones with my own phone. But I needed more. I needed something that would hit Eleanor where she really lived, her business and her reputation. The family business, Sterling Properties, was Eleanor's kingdom. She had built it from the ground up, and she ruled it with an iron fist. She prided herself on her image as a sharp, ethical, powerful businesswoman, a pillar of the community. I knew from things Leo had let slip over the years that she was obsessed with maintaining that image. A public scandal would be devastating for her. I needed to find a way to link her personal treachery to her professional life. How could I do that from a hotel room in the middle of the ocean? I thought about the text messages. They were careless. They were arrogant. They had conducted their entire conspiracy on their phones, assuming no one would ever see it. What other careless mistakes had they made? I remembered something Leo had mentioned once, a long time ago. He had complained about his mother's paranoia. He said she backed up everything. All her files, all her messages, all her emails. She had a private server at her office, and everything from her phone and her computer was automatically synced to it. He had called it her digital fortress. If the Project Lighthouse group chat was on her phone, then it was also on her server. A server that belonged to the company. A company that had shareholders and a board of directors. A company that had a code of conduct. Using company resources to conspire against her daughter-in-law was probably not in the employee handbook. But how could I get access to that server? I could not. But maybe someone else could. I thought about Leo's father, Robert. He was a silent partner in the business, a quiet, gentle man who had always been overshadowed by his wife. He had always been kind to me. He seemed genuinely fond of me, but he was also terrified of Eleanor. He never stood up to her. He just went along with whatever she wanted. Was he a coward? Or was he just biding his time? I had his email address. It was a long shot, a desperate, crazy idea. But it was the only one I had. The next morning, I told Leo I was not feeling well. I said I wanted to spend the day in the room, resting. He was immediately solicitous, his face a mask of concern. It made my skin crawl. "Is it something you ate?" he asked, putting his hand on my forehead. "Do you want me to call a doctor?" "No, I just need to sleep," I said, pulling away from his touch. "You go enjoy the beach. Do not worry about me." He hesitated, but the lure of a sunny day was too strong. "Okay," he said, "but you call me if you need anything. Anything at all." What a liar. What a fraud. As soon as he was gone, I got to work. I sat down at the small desk in our room and opened my laptop. I composed an email to Robert. It was the most carefully worded thing I had ever written. "Dear Robert," I began, "I hope you are well. I am writing to you because I am in a difficult and distressing situation, and I do not know who else to turn to. I have discovered something that deeply concerns me, not only for my own well-being, but for the well-being of Leo and the reputation of Sterling Properties." I did not give him the details. I did not mention the note or the text messages. I kept it vague, but I made it sound serious. I hinted at a serious ethical breach on Eleanor's part. "I have reason to believe that Eleanor has been using company resources for personal matters of a highly inappropriate and potentially damaging nature. I know this is a serious accusation, and I do not make it lightly. I have evidence, but I need your help to corroborate it. I believe that a full record of her communications regarding a private matter, which she has codenamed Project Lighthouse, can be found on the company server." I ended the email with a plea. "I know you are a man of integrity, Robert, and I know you love your son. I am asking you, for his sake and for the sake of the company you helped build, to look into this. Please. I am afraid of what might happen if this is not dealt with quietly and internally." I hit send. My heart was pounding. I had just thrown a grenade. Now I had to wait and see if it would explode. For the rest of the day, I was on edge. Every time my phone buzzed, I jumped. Leo came back to the room in the late afternoon, smelling of sun and salt. He asked me how I was feeling. I told him I was a little better. He suggested we order room service for dinner. I agreed. The thought of sitting in a crowded restaurant pretending to be happy was more than I could bear. We ate in silence. The tension was thick. He kept looking at me, a worried expression on his face. I knew what he was thinking. He was probably texting Eleanor and Chloe under the table, reporting on my strange mood. Clara is being quiet and withdrawn. Is this part of the plan? I felt a bitter smile touch my lips. They had no idea. They thought they were in control. They thought they were the chess masters, moving the pieces around the board. But they had forgotten about one of the pawns. And this pawn was about to get to the other side and become a queen. That night, after Leo was asleep, I checked my email. There was a reply from Robert. My hands shook as I opened it. It was short. Just one sentence. I will look into it. It was not a promise of help. It was not a declaration of allegiance. But it was something. It was a start. He had not dismissed me. He had not immediately forwarded my email to Eleanor. He was going to look. That was all I could ask for. The last 2 days of the honeymoon were excruciating. I felt like I was living a double life. By day, I was the slightly unwell but recovering wife. By night, I was a silent conspirator, checking my email every hour, waiting for a sign from Robert. Leo continued his performance as the concerned husband, all the while reporting my every move to his handlers. It was a sick, twisted play, and I could not wait for the final act. On our last night, I received another email from Robert. This one was also short, but it contained a crucial piece of information. I have found the files. They are extensive. I am in your corner. We will talk when you get back. Do not say anything to anyone until then. I felt a wave of relief so powerful it almost made me dizzy. I had an ally, an unexpected, powerful ally. Robert had seen the truth, and he had chosen a side. He had chosen my side. The game had changed. Eleanor was not the only one with power anymore. The flight home was long and silent. Leo tried to make small talk, but I gave him one-word answers. He eventually gave up and put on his headphones. I stared out the window at the clouds, my mind racing. Robert said the files were extensive. That meant he had everything. Every text, every email. The entire sordid history of their conspiracy. What would we do with it? How would we use it? My first instinct was to blow it all up, to send the files to the board of directors, to the local newspaper, to everyone we knew. I wanted to humiliate them. I wanted to ruin them. But then I thought about Leo. As much as I hated him for what he had done, he was still my husband. And a public scandal would destroy him too. It would be a stain on him for the rest of his life. Did I want that? And what about Robert? He was risking a lot by helping me. A public fight with his wife could tear his family apart and damage the company he had spent his life building. He had asked me to be quiet, to handle this internally. I owed him that much. So, no public explosion. Not yet, anyway. This would be a private war. A corporate takeover, but for a family. We would use the evidence not to destroy them, but to dismantle their power structure from the inside. We would force Eleanor to abdicate. We would force Chloe into exile. And we would force Leo to finally, truly choose. When we landed, my parents were there to pick us up. They had insisted. My mom hugged me tightly. How was it, sweetie? Did you have a wonderful time? I looked past her, at Chloe, who was standing a few feet away, a bright, false smile on her face. It was very educational, I said, my eyes locked on my sister's. Chloe's smile faltered. She knew something was wrong. She could see it in my eyes. The fear I had seen in her apartment was back, and it was mixed with confusion. She did not know what had changed, but she knew that the game was different now. We drove home in 2 cars. Leo went with his parents, who had also come to the airport. Robert gave me a brief, almost imperceptible nod as we passed in the terminal. It was a confirmation. We were on the same team. Eleanor, oblivious, kissed Leo on both cheeks and fussed over him. treating him like a 10-year-old returning from summer camp. I rode with my parents and Chloe. The car was filled with a tense silence. My mom tried to ask me questions about the trip, but I kept my answers short. I could feel Chloe staring at me from the back seat. I refused to look at her. I would not give her the satisfaction. When we got to my parents' house, where we were having a small, welcome-home dinner, I knew I had to set the stage. I needed to let Chloe know that I was on to her, without revealing everything. I needed to put her on edge, to make her sweat. While my mom was in the kitchen, I found Chloe in the living room, scrolling through her phone. "Did you have a good week?" I asked, my voice sweet as poison. She looked up, startled. "It was fine," she said. "Quiet." "I bet it was," I said. "Must be hard to keep up with your hobbies when your main subject is out of the country." She frowned. "What are you talking about? What hobbies?" "Oh, you know," I said, walking closer to her. "Lighthouse keeping. I hear it is a very demanding job. You have to be so vigilant, making sure the ships do not crash into the rocks." Her face went completely white. She dropped her phone. It clattered onto the hardwood floor. She knew. She did not know how I knew, but she knew that I knew. The code name, Project Lighthouse. I had just used their own secret language against her. I do not know what you mean," she stammered, her eyes wide with panic. "Do you not?" I said, leaning in closer, my voice a low whisper. "I think you do. And I think Eleanor does too. The thing about lighthouses, Chloe, they look so strong, but they are just hollow towers, and they can be toppled." I straightened up and smiled. "Dinner smells great," I said loudly, as if we had just been having a normal conversation. "I am starving." I walked into the kitchen, leaving her standing there, frozen in shock and terror. The first shot had been fired, and it was a direct hit. The rest of the dinner was a surreal experience. Chloe was silent and pale. She barely touched her food. My parents kept asking her if she was feeling okay. She just nodded and mumbled that she was tired. Eleanor, on the other hand, was in fine form. She dominated the conversation, telling stories about the business, subtly putting Leo down, and treating me with a cloying, condescending affection. "Clara, dear, you must be so exhausted," she said, patting my hand. "It takes a lot of energy to keep up with Leo. He is such a whirlwind." Leo, sitting next to me, just smiled and nodded, a perfect, obedient son. He was completely oblivious. He had no idea that his entire world was about to come crashing down around him. After dinner, Robert pulled me aside. "Can you come to my office tomorrow morning?" he asked, his voice low. 10 o'clock. Just you." "I will be there," I said. The next morning, I told Leo I was going to meet a friend for coffee. He did not question it. He was too busy getting ready for work, taking his marching orders from his mother over the phone. I drove to the Sterling Properties headquarters, a sleek, modern building in the heart of the city. It was a monument to Eleanor's success, to her power. I felt a tremor of fear as I walked into the lobby. Could we really do this? Could we take on a woman like her in her own kingdom? Robert's office was on a lower floor than Eleanor's. It was smaller, more modest. He was waiting for me. He closed the door behind us. On his desk was a thick binder. "This is everything," he said, his voice grim. "Every message, every email, from the beginning." He opened the binder. The pages were filled with printouts of the texts and emails I had seen on Leo's phone, and so much more. It was a meticulous record of their long, cruel campaign against me. "I have read it all," Robert said, his face etched with shame and sadness. "I cannot believe it. I knew she was controlling, but this is monstrous." "What about Leo?" I asked, my voice barely a whisper. "Did you know he was part of it?" He nodded slowly. "That is the part that breaks my heart. She has twisted him up so badly he does not know right from wrong anymore. He thinks this is love. He thinks this is what it means to be a good son." We sat in silence for a moment, the weight of the binder on the desk between us. "What do we do now?" I asked. "We end it," Robert said, his voice firm. "Today, I have called a special meeting of the board of directors for this afternoon. Eleanor thinks it is about the new development project. It is not. It is about her." My eyes widened. "The board? Are you sure?" "I am the majority shareholder, Clara," he said, a flicker of steel in his eyes that I had never seen before. "My father left me 51% of the voting shares. Eleanor has always run the company. But I have always held the power. I just never used it. Until now." He explained the plan. He was going to present the evidence to the board. He would not make it public. He would frame it as a serious lapse in judgment, a misuse of company resources, and a potential liability for the company. He was going to demand her immediate resignation as CEO. "She will fight it," I said. "Let her," Robert said. "If she fights, I will make it public. I will show the world who she really is. Her reputation is the only thing she loves more than her control over Leo. She will not risk it. She will resign." "And then what?" I asked. "Then the company will be run by people who are ethical and sane," he said, "and you and I will deal with Leo." It was a bold, ruthless plan, and it was perfect. "What about Chloe?" I asked. "Your sister is not my concern," Robert said, his voice cold. "She is your family. You will have to decide how to handle her." He was right. Chloe was my problem to solve, and I knew exactly what I was going to do. I left Robert's office feeling a strange mixture of terror and exhilaration. The final confrontation was coming. I went home and waited. Leo came home from work early. He was agitated. "Something strange is going on at the office," he said, pacing the living room. "My dad called a board meeting without telling my mom. She is furious. She is locked in her office with the company lawyers." "I am sure it is nothing," I said, my voice calm. He stopped pacing and looked at me. "You seem very calm about this." "I am just tired of the drama, Leo," I said. "Whatever is happening at your office is between your parents. I do not want to be involved." It was a lie, of course. I was at the very center of it. An hour later, Leo's phone rang. It was his mother. He answered it, his face pale. I could not hear what she was saying, but her voice was loud and shrill like a shrieking bird. Leo just stood there, listening, his eyes wide with shock. "What? No, that is not possible. He would not," he kept saying. "Mom, calm down. What are you talking about?" He listened for another minute, then he hung up. He looked at me, his expression a mixture of confusion and dawning horror. "She is out," he said, his voice a hoarse whisper. "The board forced her to resign. My dad, he did it. He took the company from her." He sank onto the couch, looking utterly lost. "Why would he do that?" he asked, looking at me as if I might have the answer. "Maybe he had a good reason," I said quietly. And then, as if on cue, my phone buzzed. It was a text from an unknown number. I opened it. It was a single image, a screenshot of an email. It was the email I had sent to Robert from the hotel. Leo's head snapped up. He had heard the buzz. He saw my face. He saw the look in my eyes. And in that moment, he understood. "You," he whispered. "This was you." "Not just me," I said, standing up. It was time. No more secrets. No more lies. "I do not understand," he said, shaking his head. "What did you do?" "I told him the truth, Leo," I said. "I told him about Project Lighthouse." The color drained from his face. He looked like he had been punched in the gut. How did you know about that?" "I know everything," I said, my voice cold and hard. "I know about the note. I know about the medication. I know about the texts. I know that you, my husband, conspired with my sister and your mother to systematically undermine our marriage and my sanity." I took out my phone and started showing him the pictures I had taken. The picture of the note. The screenshots of the group chat. His own words, his own betrayal laid bare. He stared at the screen, speechless. The evidence was undeniable. He could not lie his way out of this. He could not gaslight me. He was trapped. I can explain, he stammered. Can you? I asked. Can you explain why you would do this to me? To us? It was not supposed to be like that, he said, his voice pleading. My mom, she was just worried about me. She thought you were a bad influence. She thought I was losing myself. A bad influence? I laughed, a harsh, bitter sound. Because I am independent? Because I have my own thoughts? Because I did not let her control me? Is that why I am a bad influence? She just wanted to protect me, he said weakly. Protect you? I repeated, my voice rising. By drugging you? By turning you against your own wife? By treating you like a child who cannot make his own decisions? That is not protection, Leo. That is abuse. He flinched as if I had struck him. Do not say that. It is the truth, I said. And you were a willing participant. You went along with all of it. You lied to my face every single day. You let them poison your mind against me. You chose them. You chose their sickness over our marriage. Tears were streaming down his face now. I am sorry, he whispered. Clara, I am so sorry. I love you. I was just confused, scared. It is too late for sorry, I said. The rage I had been holding back for days was finally breaking free. I am in the present now, standing before him, the full force of my fury unleashed. You stand there and you cry, I say, my voice dripping with contempt. You play the victim, but you are not the victim here, Leo. You are a coward. A weak, spineless coward who let his mother and my sister destroy the best thing that ever happened to you because you were too afraid to stand up to them. He looks up at me, his face a mess of tears and snot. What do you want me to do? He asks, his voice breaking. I will do anything. I will fix this. Fix this? I laugh again, a hollow, empty sound. You cannot fix this. You broke it. You shattered it into a million pieces. There is nothing left to fix. At that moment, the doorbell rings. Leo looks up, confused. I do not move. I know who it is. I called them on my way home from Robert's office. You should get that, I say. He slowly gets up and walks to the door. He opens it. My parents are standing on the doorstep, and next to them is Chloe. What is going on? My mom asks, her face creased with worry. Clara, you called us. You said it was an emergency. It is, I say, my eyes fixed on Chloe. We are having a family meeting. Come in. They all file into the living room. The air is thick with tension. My dad looks from me to Leo, his expression grim. Chloe will not look at me at all. She is staring at the floor. Chloe, I say, my voice dangerously soft. Why do you not tell Mom and Dad what you have been up to? She shakes her head, her eyes filling with tears. Clara, please, she whispers. No, I say. No more, please, no more secrets. You are going to tell them. You are going to tell them how you conspired with Eleanor to ruin my marriage. You are going to tell them about the note. You are going to tell them about Project Lighthouse. She starts to sob, a pathetic gulping sound. I cannot, she says. Then I will, I say. And I do. I tell them everything. I show them the evidence on my phone. I leave nothing out. I tell them about the lies, the manipulation, the medication. I tell them how my own sister, my maid of honor, spent my wedding day taking instructions on how to destroy me. When I am finished, there is a dead silence in the room. My mother is staring at Chloe, her face a mask of disbelief and horror. My father looks like he has aged 10 years in the last 10 minutes. Is this true? My dad asks Chloe, his voice shaking with a quiet rage I have never heard from him before. Chloe cannot speak. She just nods, her body shaking with sobs. My mother takes a step towards her. "How could you?" she whispers, her voice filled with a pain that tears at my heart. "She is your sister. We raised you to love each other, to protect each other. How could you do this to her?" "I do not know," Chloe chokes out. "Eleanor," she got in my head. "She said Leo deserved better. She said I would be better for him. She promised me things." "She promised you my husband?" I say, my voice incredulous. "You were trying to steal my husband?" "I am so sorry," she wails. "I was jealous. I have always been jealous of you. Everything has always been so easy for you." "Easy?" I repeat. "You think this is easy? You think being betrayed by the two people who are supposed to be my closest family is easy?" I turn to my parents. "This is what you raised," I say, my voice hard. "A liar and a backstabber." My father walks over to Chloe. He does not yell. He does not touch her. He just looks at her with a profound, soul-crushing disappointment. "Get your things," he says, his voice flat and dead. "I want you out of my house. Tonight." "Dad, no," Chloe pleads. She was living at home, saving money. "Yes," he says. "You have made your choice. You chose them over your family. Now you can live with that choice. You are no longer welcome here." My mother does not protest. She just stands there, tears silently streaming down her face, watching as her family falls apart. Chloe looks at me, her eyes begging for help. I turn away. I have nothing left to give her. She created this mess. She can lie in it. She stumbles out of the room to pack her bag. My parents stand there looking broken. I feel a pang of guilt for what I have done to them, for blowing up their world. But it had to be done. The poison had to be cut out. I look at Leo. He has been watching the whole thing, silent and shattered. He is the last piece of the puzzle. "Now it is your turn," I say. "You have a choice to make, Leo." "Her," I say, gesturing to the door where his mother has metaphorically been standing all this time. "Or me." He looks at me, his eyes red and swollen. "You," he says, his voice thick with emotion. "It has always been you. I was just too weak and stupid to see it." Saying it is not enough, I say. "You have to prove it. You will cut her off. No contact, no money, no anything. You will go to therapy. Real therapy, with a real doctor, not the quack she has been sending you to. You will learn to stand on your own 2 feet. You will learn to be a man, not a boy. And you will spend the rest of your life earning back my trust. And even then, I do not know if it will be enough. It is a long list of demands. It is a hard road. But it is the only road that leads back to me. I will do it," he says, without hesitation. "I will do all of it. I will do anything." I look at him, at this broken man who has caused me so much pain. I do not know if I can ever forgive him. I do not know if I can ever truly trust him again. But as I look into his eyes, I see a flicker of something that has been missing for a long time. A flicker of the man I fell in love with. The man who was buried under years of his mother's toxic influence. Maybe, just maybe, he is worth saving. The fallout was swift and brutal. Eleanor, stripped of her company and her power, became a pariah. Her reputation was in tatters. Robert made sure of it, quietly letting the truth slip to key people in their social and business circles. He did not release the evidence, but he did not have to. The whispers were enough. Eleanor was a manipulative monster who had abused her own son and tried to destroy his marriage. She was left with her money, but without the power and prestige she craved. She was nothing. She was a queen without a kingdom. Leo was true to his word. He cut Eleanor off completely. He blocked her number. He returned her letters unopened. He started intensive therapy. It was a painful, difficult process. He had to unlearn a lifetime of toxic conditioning. He had to confront his own weakness, his own complicity. There were days when he was a mess, full of self-loathing and despair. But he never gave up. He was fighting for his life, for his sanity, for us. Chloe was a ghost. My parents followed through on their threat. They kicked her out. She went to stay with a friend. She tried to call me, to text me, to apologize. I ignored her. I was not ready to hear it. My betrayal was too deep, too raw. My parents were heartbroken, but they stood firm. They had chosen their side. They had chosen me. A few months later, Robert called me. He had officially taken over as CEO of Sterling Properties. He offered me a job, a senior position in the marketing department. "The company needs a new story," he said, "and I think you are the one to write it." I took the job. It felt right. It felt like I was taking back a piece of what they had stolen from me. I was good at it. I helped rebrand the company, moving it away from Eleanor's cold, ruthless image and towards something more modern, more ethical. Leo and I were still together. We were taking it day by day. We were rebuilding, slowly, carefully. There were good days and bad days. There were moments of hope and moments of doubt. But we were talking. For the first time in our relationship, we were really, truly talking. We were being honest. One evening, about a year after the wedding, we were sitting on the couch in our apartment. It had been a good day. Leo had come home from therapy looking lighter, more at peace than I had ever seen him. "I finally understand," he said, taking my hand. "All those years, I thought my mom's control was love. I thought her constant interference was concern. But it was not. It was about her. It was about her fear, her ego. She did not want me to be happy. She wanted me to be hers." He looked at me, his eyes clear and steady. "You were the first person who ever challenged that. You were the first person who saw me, the real me, not the person she wanted me to be. That is why she had to get rid of you. You were a threat to her control. And you let her," I said quietly. It was not an accusation. It was just a fact. A fact we had to live with. "Yes," he said, his voice full of regret. "I did, and I will spend the rest of my life making that up to you." I did not know what our future would hold, but in that moment I felt a flicker of hope. The note, the lies, the conspiracy. They had almost destroyed us. They had pushed us to the very brink. But we were still here. We were wounded, we were scarred, but we were still standing. Eleanor's warning on my wedding day had been a threat, a prophecy she had intended to fulfill herself. "He is a terrible husband," she had said. And for a while, she had been right. He had been a terrible husband, but he was not anymore. He was a man fighting his way out of the darkness, and I was the one who had given him the light to follow. Project Lighthouse had failed, but in its place, we were building something new. Something smaller, quieter, but infinitely more real. We were building a home. And this time we were building it on a foundation of truth. I suppose in the end, Eleanor did me a favor. She showed me the worst of people, and in doing so, she showed me my own strength. I learned that I could fight my own battles. I learned that I could face down monsters and win. And I learned that true love is not about perfection. It is about seeing the flaws, the wounds, the darkness, and choosing to stay anyway. It is about fighting for each other, even when it is hard. Especially when it is hard. We had a long way to go. But for the first time in a long time, I believed we were going to make it.